Hello guys, and welcome to a new Star Division 2 video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you a preview of the 1E DFL, otherwise known as the First Free French Division, which is a new division available in the upcoming Nemesis DLC, Storming Toulon. As a disclaimer, Eugen has given me free access to the DLC, so big thanks to them. Also, please remember that this is on an early access preview build, and what you see may be subject to change. If you'd like to read the description on the right hand side, feel free to pause the video and take a look, but I'm going to be jumping straight on in. We'll be going through all of the units available as usual, and then I'm going to put together a quick deck. I did in fact have a deck already built of the 1E, but it's disappeared, so lucky you guys, you get to see me make it again. So there we go. All right, let's jump into the Recon tab. All right, so first of all, it's got to be said, it's the beautiful, beautiful motorcycle. The thing that people barely use, unfortunately. This one doesn't even have a radio, guys. It's obsolete. Looks cool, though. Jeep 50 Cal does have a radio, so this would be the choice instead of the sidecar. And 50 Cals are very strong, so definitely maybe worth having in your deck, to be honest. 50 Cal support's really, really nice at the moment. Then there's the Gruppe RFM. These guys have the M6 Fargo as a transport. This is a really, really interesting transport. Like the standard two-man squad's just two Thompsons, and they have exceptional stealth. Kind of like, you know, Aufklärer or other recon squads. But this transport is really what it's all about here. The M6 Fargo with the 15 round per minute rate of fire, 50% accurate, 37mm AT gun. That's mounted on the back. It has 43 km/h speed, 85 km/h speed on road, and it has recon capability. So 1,250 meter range. A really, really interesting transport that could be used to snipe transports very effectively in the early game. And also catch out units in the mid game, because 70 mils of penetration into side armor is actually not too bad. So this thing could do some serious damage, especially if it remains hidden for a little while. It's not going to be remaining hidden for that long because the stealth's only medium, but it's still a very, very interesting transport that I'm interested to see in play. We also have the Jeep MMG, standard Jeep, and the amphibious Jeep there as well, or the Ford GPA. Then we got the Fusilier Marines. These are RFM again. They have the 3 Thompson submachine guns and 3 M1 carbines with 2 smoke grenades. These are actually a quite nice, meaty squad. They have the ability to keep themselves safe with the smoke grenade once they come under fire. And at closer ranges, they actually do put out a decent amount of DPS. So a nice little squad here. 20 points apiece, nicely priced. You get 5 of them on a card in Phase A, 10 in B, 15 in C. And these can be brought in the M20 or the Scout car. The Scout car, again, is great because of the 50 cal, and it has slightly more armor than the M20, making it a little bit of a better option. The M20 has the speed, though, so if that's what you prefer, that's what you should go for. Now on to one of the more unique units of the 1E. This is the Commandos d'Afrique. These guys are a fully fledged combat squad in the Recon tab. 4 Thompson submachine guns, 5 M1 Garands. They have an FM24 and a bazooka. They have exceptional stealth, so they can hide very well, and they got very high optics with radio, and obviously like the ability to kill tanks. This squad is like really, really peak. Now obviously they are commandos, so you'd expect that to be the case. But yeah, very, very combat effective recon squad. Now, ultimately, their price is pretty high, considering you could go for like more specialized infantry in each sort of situation. But their loadout for close range with the 4 Thompson submachine guns is actually really big these days because of the MG changes. So in the new DLC, there's going to be a patch that accompanies it. And basically, what it's going to do is add a minimum range to LMGs and machine guns. But automatic rifles do not get that minimum range. So the FM can still fire at close range, but this means that submachine guns are going to be a lot more prevalent and a lot more important for close range engagements. So having 4 Thompsons is actually very big for close range engagements, and usually you're going to have these in heavy cover, hiding, providing recon information, ambushing vehicles near roads, and so on. So yeah, I think this is a really nice squad, and I really do like the outfits that they have. Like, just the detail on the unit is really nice. So yeah, very cool indeed. All right, then we have the M8 RFM. So this is just a Recon M8, but it does have a new camo, I believe, or at least one that I don't remember seeing, because it does have the insignia of the 1E on the front. So yeah, definitely new. And yeah, it looks cool. It's a pretty standard M8. We've seen the Recon M8 before in the other French division, the 2nd Armoured. So nothing too much to talk about there. And then we have the M3A3, which also has a unique camo. Well, the camo, I guess, is pretty standard, but it does have the insignia of the 1E on it, so really nice attention to detail. And these M3A3s, they're okay. They're, again, good at taking out transports and light vehicles in the sidearm with the 70mm of penetration on the 37mm gun, but they don't provide as much decent infantry support as an M8, because an M8 has a 50 cal, and the 230 cals just don't really make up for that. If it had a third 30 cal, then maybe that would be the case, but I don't think the M3A3 had a mount on the top for one, so there we go. Interesting little tank there. Over to the infantry dab. Now this is where things get really interesting with this division, because there are a lot of different options here. First of all, we've got the artilleers. DCA. These guys have 5 M1 carbines and 7 P17 rifles. The rifles, I think, are pretty standard in relation to other bolt-action rifles, and the semi-autos allow them to do a little bit more DPS at closer ranges. But, you know, they're cheap. 15 points, just standard line infantry, 12-man squads. Good for just holding the line and slowing down your opponent. Then we have the commander, the leader for the FFI. These guys have the MP40, two MAS 36s, sorry, and the FM24. They do have exceptional stealth, which is really cool because they have the radar trait. So really good leader for just remaining hidden, and you can get 4 of them in phase A. And they also come in with the FFI traction, which is this car here, as you can see. Which is very fast. These tractions are super fast. We've seen them first of all in the 17th SS, but now we have them here with this French group, and they have 58 km/h speed off-road, but 115 km/h speed on-road, which I believe is the fastest vehicle in the game. So there you go. Then we have the sapper leader. This guy has the Thompson M1A1 and the 2 P17s with smoke grenades. So instead of having access to the exceptional stealth, they have access to smoke grenades, which I think is nice. It would be really cool if the FFI leader had smoke grenades, because they might accidentally, you know, engage with their automatic rifle if you forget to put them on return fire or whatever. So yeah, that would be nice. But the sapper leader has that available if you want it. Slightly less availability though, only 3 of them at the start here. But again, cool uniforms. Nice hat there in the middle. And he got his tin hat with the Thompson. Let's move on to the TIR Pioneers. These guys are the start of some of the African troops. And we have the 8 P17s here with the 3 TNT. And they have very good stealth in there. I'm pretty sure that's standard. Actually, no, it's not. And they do have slightly higher stealth. Yeah, that's an interesting one. So they're able to, you know, stay out of combat. At the 500 meter range, they're not going to put out that much DPS. Like, their damage is actually quite low. But they are there as a good sort of support unit for the engagements at close range when you need the HE. So that's pretty important. As for transports, actually, for these other units, we do have some half-tracks available, but not that many. So they have a total of 12 M5 half-tracks and 8 M5A1 half-tracks. And that's for, like, all of their infantry. So you just got to choose what you want to put them with. We do have the Tirailleurs AEF here. These guys have a Thompson submachine gun, 10 P17s, and a automatic rifle, the FM. 12-man squad for 20 points, 9 availability in A, 15 in B, 27 in C. I believe that's the same for the Pioneers here, but you can't get them in C. So pretty standard availability curve. Can't be brought, in the half track. But yeah, really nice, solid line infantry, and you've got 3 cards of them, so plenty available. Then there's the Tirailleurs AFN. These have a bit better close range capability with the 2 Stens. So as we can see, instead of having like 0.5 damage at the close range, you got 0.8 damage between the 2 Stens. The Thompson submachine gun is like the highest damaging or highest DPS submachine gun in the game. So that is pretty good on the initial squads. But having 2 submachine guns is better for close range engagements, of course. And they have the automatic rifle, so they're going to beat LMG squads at close range. But yeah, pretty standard. You only get 1 card of them. I like the hats. Got these cool little caps on. And yeah, pretty standard transport, just the GMC. Moving on, we got the Chocks. These guys have 6 Stens, 3 M1 carbines, and an FM, as well as the Willy Pete. It says an anti-tank grenade. It's just anti-infantry, really. It throws white phosphorus at the enemy infantry, and can basically move them off tiles like Molotovs do. So these guys are awesome because you get 9 of them on a card in Phase A at 2-star veterancy, or 15 in B, which is pretty big. They have the Raider trait, so they have very good stealth, which allows them to kind of like move through cover, especially light cover, without being seen as easily, allowing you to get them into their close range engagements where they really shine. A very good close range infantry squad. Then we go down to the BIMP squads. So we got the BIMP leader here, 3-man squad, Thompson's M1 carbine smoke grenades, very similar loadout to the sapper leader. And you can get 3 of those in A, 6 in B, and they have 2-star veterancy, which is quite nice. Then we have standard sappers. These guys are very similar to the sappers in the other French division, where they have the Thompson, the P17, a bazooka, and a TNT. So they can definitely defeat squads at close range within 100 meters. But they also have the AT capability to knock out armor at the 250 meter range. So that's pretty big. These could be really nice and strong. You can get them a decent availability, similar to Pioneers and Sapere, where you go 5, 10, 15, and then if you upvet them, they don't really lose that much in the availability curve, so you can easily make these like 3-star Sappers, which could be really nice for close range engagements. Then we have the BIMP squads. These guys have 2 Thompson submachine guns, the 8 P17s, the 2 Brens. Brens are classed as automatic rifles, not LMGs, and a bazooka. Really strong squad again. Great line infantry with decent engagement at close range versus other line infantry squads, especially like on the German side, on the Axis side, squads that have MG34s and MG42s at close range will no longer be able to use them within 100 meter range. So the Bren will really be very good in those situations. So the BIMP squad's there. Nice availability as well. 6, 9, and 12. Maybe not in the later phases, but definitely in the early phases, these squads are good value for sure. This is also where the ace is. We have Tranape. He comes in with this squad. Pretty much exactly the same in stats. Well, they are exactly the same in stats. Ace units in Steel Division 2 don't get any stat bonus. They are just slightly different. In this case, it's kind of hard to tell the difference, but we have an ace BIMP unit there. Then we have the Tirailleurs. These guys are the leaders of the Tirailleurs. They got a sniper rifle and a bazooka and smoke grenades. It's quite a combination. But the nice thing about this is, say if you spot an AT gun at range or an infantry gun at range, and you need something to take care of it, then your leader can just move forwards and kill it now, which is cool. And then they can smoke themselves off if they get in trouble. They also provide like a bazooka. So say if you're focusing on using a lot of squads of like these tirailleurs and they don't have any sort of AT options, but you back them up with the tirailleur leader, then the tirailleur leader provides a lot of the sort of a different use stuff that you need, like the bazooka and the Springfield, a lot more versatility. So that's cool. Then we have the Macassars. These guys are from Steel Division Normandy 44. If you've played that, you'll know of them. But in this one, they get Molotovs, which is cool. They have 3 Stens, 8 Kar 98s, and an automatic rifle. So again, going to be quite decent squads at close range. Well, very decent squads at close range because of the Molotov and the 3 Stens. So quite scary units, and their availability is really, really nice. 9, 18, 27. Their price is actually quite high though, so do bear that in mind. And they can only be brought in the DMA, which is actually quite a slow transport compared to some of the others. Then we have Legionnaires. This is the French Legion. They have 3 Thompsons, 8 P17s, 2 BARs, and 4 HE satchels, which is actually crazy. These guys are very, very strong against other line infantry, but will be beaten by specific close range infantry on the Axis side. So things with a lot of like flames or a lot of submachine guns might be able to get the better of Legionnaires over time. But ultimately, you have a 13 strength fanatical squad with TNT. And that's going to actually make them really hard to kill, because a grenade or an enemy TNT is not going to be able to one-shot your squad. So you'll always be able to retreat at least once with this squad, as long as you're paying attention. Which actually makes them, you know, pretty good. Nice and resilient. 30 points. You can only bring them in at 2-star veterancy though. So the availability of these guys is probably where they are not as good. Because you're sacrificing one of your infantry slots to bring in either 4, 8, or 12 in each respective phase. And that is not very much. They can be brought in half tracks though, which would also give you the veterancy on the half track. So bringing in these guys in M5A1s might be a nice idea, because it gives you a 2-star M5A1 half track. Just something to bear in mind. Then we have the Legion Leader. This guy has 2 M3 grease guns, 5 M1 carbines, and a bazooka with the smoke grenades. So again, the leader is providing the versatility that the mainline infantry lacks with that bazooka. So the standard Legionnaires don't have AT, but the leader does. So making sure that you have them together is going to be quite important, but this leader is very, very expensive. It's 35 points for a 7-man squad. Now, ultimately, it does provide a lot of benefits. It's a leader, it has a radio, it's a smoke layer, it's got the fanatical trait. Like, there are a lot of things here that make this very, very good. And it has very good stealth. So, you know, this Legion Leader is very good. But ultimately, availability again is a problem, and price is quite expensive. So you've got to get value out of it. You really do. Finally, we have the Legion Sapeur Pioneers. These guys have 3 Thompson machine guns and 2 flamethrowers, as well as 5 P17s. They've also got fantastic beards, as you can see here. This guy with the fella with the massive white beard, and then all of the rest of them got beards as well. But these guys, yeah, double flamer, fanatical, really, really strong close range infantry option, similar to Stemaviki, except they are fanatical, which is obviously even better. And their availability is actually really nice. So 5 and then 10, which is the same as a normal Pioneer squad. Really, really cool. So infantry options here for the 1E DFL are incredible. And yeah, that's definitely going to be a big strength of theirs. Moving on to the tank tab. This is a bit more simple. We have the Command M3A3. The same sort of loadout as the Recon variant, just a leader instead. Then we have the M5A1. The M5A1 is slightly stronger in armor, but slower on speed. So that's the main difference between the two. But the M5A1 still, you know, a nice close range infantry support unit for your infantry, and in the tank tab it definitely has a space because they're so cheap, but you get a high availability. So you can spread these out and have almost one Stuart for every infantry squad on the map if you want, especially towards the beginning of the game. Then there is M10s, and you're probably wondering, why are there M10s in the tank tab? That's weird. Well, for this division in particular, I believe in history they used M10s as part of their tank doctrine, not just their anti-tank doctrine. So they've got some M10s in the tank tab, which actually have more availability, I believe, than those in the anti-tank tab. So definitely encourages you to bring them. They have a 50 cal, and they are, you know, a decent gun. 130 mils of penetration, 45 mils accuracy at 1,750 meter range is actually pretty good, especially against sort of medium tanks on the Axis side. Then we have a card of M4A4s. These are pretty standard. Shermans, they've got 5 availability in A, 10 in B, 15 in C. Availability does drop a lot more now when you up-bet them, because Shermans were nerfed. But even so, I believe these are very good support for your infantry. Shermans are just great because they have 230 cals and a 50 cal, and the HE on their main gun to do a lot of damage, and they're decent, you know, speed off-road. So yeah, fantastic sort of medium armor, of course. Let's move on to the support tab. So we have the Legion 30 cal here, so it's just a 30 cal with the fanatical trait because they're Legion. They're okay. Don't get crazy amount of availability. You can bring them in the Jeeps or the Ford GPA. Then we have the M1917A1, just this Browning squad, pretty standard stuff. 5 in A, 10 in B, 15 in C. And these can be upvetted quite nicely because of their availability curve, but for the price, probably not worth it. And we have the M8. Now, I haven't really tried out M8 since the range changes, but I can imagine these wouldn't be too bad for close range infantry fire support, and especially good for taking out things like IEGs now and so on, because they can match their range. So I think M8s are more useful than they used to be, but whether or not they justify an activation point or two in this division remains to be seen, but they are available there if you want them. Then there's the two different types of supply trucks. We've got the DMA FFI logistics truck, and then there's the GMC American truck there. There is the 50 cals available, 40 points a pop. These are very expensive MG squads, but they match the range of an MG42, so they can be useful for pinning down infantry at range and basically locking down longer range engagements against infantry. There is, however, the M3 howitzer. Now, this made a move a little while back from the artillery tab to the support tab, and now it's just kind of like a support gun. And the HE is 2,000 meter range, which is really big. There aren't many support guns in the game now that sport the 2,000 meter range. Like the IG-33 is probably like one of the only options on the Axis side, and then you got like the M3 howitzer here on the Allied side, and this makes them really decent, like really good choices for locking down open areas and maps and killing off enemy support guns, because they do have 4.1 damage, which is quite significant. And then if things get closer, they got 130 mils of penetration at 1,500 meter range, which is pretty big. It is a heat shell, so they maintain the 130 mils of penetration. The accuracy, however, is pretty bad. But even so, these howitzers are very, very good. I definitely rate them at the moment. Next up, we have the commanders. So there is the Traction commander available. The Commandant, which is a 4-man squad. They can be brought in with the WC-25 HMG and so on. But yeah, it depends if you want armoured or infantry. There is an M20 command available. Also for these, I believe there's like different transports available for a few of these. Yeah, some of these can be brought in half tracks, like the M3 howitzers, if you choose to do that. But I would definitely recommend like upvetting your transports with some of your infantry. Anyway, anti-tank tab, FFI partisans, 10-point squad. You can get 9 of them in phase A. These are fantastic if you pair them with the FFI traction for the early game. So you get 2 Stens and a Panzerfaust. And basically what you can do is, because they have such good speed, is you can zoom up to the middle of the map, and get some really good armor snipes and transport snipes on the enemy team, just like ambush them early on with these partisan squads. For 10 points, you can't really go wrong. They've got exceptional stealth, so they hide really well, and they only engage at 100 meter range because they've got the Sten. So yeah, really solid anti-tank option if you can fit it in your deck. Then there's the bazooka squads. These are a bit more reliable because of their extra range, which allows them to hit and ambush armor from further away, which can be really, really useful in like more condensed maps with a lot of heavy cover. So bazooka's obviously way better than the partisans with the Panzerfaust, but these guys are fantastic opener, especially in like a 1v1 scenario. I can expect that these get used. Then we have M3 guns. This is the same M3 gun that's on the back of the Fargo in the Recon tab. You have 37mm, 50% accurate, 70mm of penetration. So 15 round per minute rate of fire. Very nice for taking out light targets and transports. Then we have the good old 57mm AT gun as well. 115mm of penetration, 50% accuracy, 12 round per minute rate of fire. Your standard AT gun, we've seen it plenty of times over. And then finally we got the M10s in the anti-tank tab. So 2 cards of these available. You can only bring them in phase A and B. You can get 3 in A, 6 in B. So the availability is not great. Finally, moving on, we have the anti-air Bofors. So not really much to talk about here. We've seen Bofors before. They are decent. If you can get them at higher veterancy, that's great. But yeah, 2 cards, you probably want to bring both. Artillery. We have the observers, the good old artillery observers here. Recon, radio, exceptional stealth. And yeah, they're okay if you have room for them. If you maybe want to save a recon tab point and put it into artillery instead, then these can be a good choice. We got artillery leaders, 40 points. They do look cool. For sure, but yeah, not really particularly useful in this case. Then we have the 60mm mortars. You've got 81mm mortars. You've got the 105mm off map. Now, excuse me. In this off map, it doesn't seem very good, but you do get 4 strikes. So 105mm is not terribly strong. But because you do get 4 strikes, it does make this a little bit more desirable, and in certain situations could be really, really useful for 70 points. It's pretty cheap. Obviously, what you got to watch out for is that the plane itself is very vulnerable to being shot down. It would only take like a couple AA units to kill that, and like a little strafe from a fighter. So yeah, you got to be careful when you bring these out. Make sure you've got your own AA up or your own aircraft up that can intercept enemy fighters that might try and shoot this down. And in this case, you don't really have like the best AA options to keep this safe, and air is a lot more risky. There are plenty of air options, but artillery still. So 105mm are available. You get 4 cards of these if you want them, and that's a lot in phase C if you bring all of them. 5.25 damage is decent. It does have smoke as well. So, yeah, pretty nice. Unfortunately, you can't bring them in with any supply vehicles, though. So you'd have to definitely sacrifice your support tab a lot to make up for that. Then there is the good old Long Tom, the 155mm. It has the HE shells there with 7.75 damage. This is the big boy, and it does a lot of damage, and it has corrected shots, so it can definitely hit the target very well. And you bring them in with these M4 vehicles. which do have 10 mils of frontal armor now. So they are actually pretty useful as fire support against infantry now, because infantry can't kill them. So once upon a time, you know, these units, they didn't used to have armor, and that would just make them useless, because an enemy infantry squad would just fire some light arms fire at them, and then they would be knocked out. Whereas now, you know, they've kind of got a little bit of armor, tiny bit of armor, will get popped easily by AT rifles and light AT guns, but you know, can be used in situations to support your infantry, especially after just leaving this gun behind to do its work. And you get 3 cards of these, so technically you can have 12 long toms, but again, you'd need to sacrifice your support tab to make sure you have enough supply if you want to continue that throughout the game. Finally, we have the air tab, and the air tab's actually really exciting in this division. It's very cool. We've got the lightning here, which has a really nice camo. 660 kilometers per hour speed. It's a recon lightning, so no armaments, but yeah, it looks cool. Probably not going to choose it, but yeah, 35 points, recon, maybe in a pinch. Then you got the Seafire. This is a much better option. The Seafire has 2 20 mils and 4 30 cals. Goes 575 kilometers per hour speed, has very good agility, and has recon capability. So not only can you dogfight very well with this, and it also has decent ammo to do that, you can also strafe with it. So if you maybe shoot down an enemy aircraft or an enemy bomber or something, you can then go straight after the enemy ground forces. So I think in a game recently, I shot down an enemy aircraft and I strafed like a mortar, like straight afterwards. Then we have the Wildcats. So the Wildcats are here. First time they've been in Steel Division 2. And they've got 450 cals, very good agility. The big thing here is that they have medium resilience, which is higher than the bad resilience that the Spitfires get. So a little bit more meaty in the sky, but their speed's really going to let them down, even though their availability is pretty good and their price is pretty low. So yeah, an interesting option, might be worth trying. If you have them floating about preemptively to just kind of shut down enemy bomber play or something like that. But otherwise, you know, it's going to be hard to really intercept enemy aircraft with these. Then there's the Spitfire Mark 5B Trop. Again, 2 20 mils and 4 30 cals. This one has less ammo though, as you can see, only 120 rounds. But 590 kilometers per hour speed, and you have to bring them in at least 1 vet, which gives them this exceptional agility, or excellent agility. So, yeah, a decent fighter option, but honestly, the Seafire with the extra ammo, I would say, is better still. Then we have the Spitfire LF Mark 8. This is a really cool Spitfire. It has the 4 prop instead of the 3 prop. One thing I really like about this Spitfire, especially in War Thunder, makes it great at climbing. But regardless, this is a bomber, and it has 1 227 kilogram bomb and 2 113 kilogram bombs. So it's going to one-shot pretty much any support weapon, probably one-shot most infantry squads as well. It's a very good bomber. It really is. And availability is decent. 2 in Phase A, 4 in B, 8 in C. Then there's the P39. This is another nice air-to-air option with a 30 mil in the nose, 250 cals, actually 450 cals, sorry. And this has 580 kilometer per hour speed. An exceptional fighter. It's just that it's a little overpriced because you're probably gonna, I don't know, if you can trade with a Spitfire for 100 points against a Focke-Wulf, then that's a great trade because the Focke-Wulf always costs more. But a P39 can't head on a Focke-Wulf, and so you'd probably lose it, and it's going to cost you more. Whereas, you know, this is great if you can really micro it well. It just takes a little bit more effort to use, I guess. It is good at strafing as well because of the 37, but you'd need to have recon capability, which is where the Seafire comes in a lot more handy. So in this deck, it's a nice fighter, but whether or not it's actually useful, I don't think it's as useful as some of the other options. But lovely French markings again on all of these aircraft. It's really, really cool to see. Then we have the B-26 Marauder. So the B-26 Marauder has 8 227 kilogram bombs. The payload's okay, but it isn't the fastest bomber in the world. Very good resilience though, and plenty of firepower. Now, one thing that I would really like to try with this, if I get the chance sometime, is to bring in 2 cards in Phase C. That would give you a total of 14 Marauders. And these Marauders, yeah, they're well armed with 50 cals. They have 4 front-facing 50 cals on the sides. They've got the nose gunner, obviously. So if anything comes in front of them, they're going to get absolutely aced. And then on the back, you've got the gunner on top, the gunner on the back, and 2 side gunners, all 50 cals. If you had a lot of these in formation, I feel like any aircraft that came in behind would get destroyed very, very quickly. So really tempted to try out these in formation and give them a good go in that regard. And then we have the Hellcat Mark II. This has 510 km/h speed, has the same medium resilience as P-47s and the Wildcat, but has 6 50 cals and of course the bombing payload, and it goes faster. So this is a really good aircraft, but it's expensive and the availability is unfortunately quite low. But yeah, otherwise, you know, decent payload, can definitely help you knock out even the heaviest of tanks with a decent number of them, but bringing in a decent number of them will cost you, you know, a card in the air tab, and you'd be forced to bring them in later on. Right, next up we have the P-47. This now has 8 50 cals and 1 227 kilogram bomb. Again, goes faster than the Hellcat. The nice thing about the 227 kilogram bomb is it's good at taking out units with like 5 health, maybe 6 health if you're lucky, like with a direct hit. But it kind of struggles to kill things like Pac-40s that have like 7 health, for example. And that's where something like the Hellcat with the extra payload or the Spitfire with the extra few bombs really comes in handy. So whilst this is like nice for pinning a unit, the bomb isn't really what makes this good. I think just having like a P-47 that can drop a bomb and then be a fighter, like that would be what would make this useful. But for its price, not too sure that's great. But availability in Phase A is actually pretty good. So yeah, it's I would and ah about this over taking it instead of the Spitfire, basically. Then we have the Marauder here. This has 2 907 kilogram bombs. Now these are big bombs, very big bombs. 350 km/h speed, but you don't get many of them. There's only 1 in A, 2 in B, and 4 in C. So availability is very low, but you've got that lovely coverage of 50 cals again, and same speed. So you can mix these up, and you know they would stay in formation, which is really cool. Sometimes when you bring in like different Bostons, for example, they have different speeds because their payloads are different. But in this case, I believe like the payloads roughly add up to about the same. So the speeds are the same. And that is actually pretty nice if you bring them all out at once. Then there is a Hellcat available with AT rockets. It only has 6 AT rockets though. 510 km/h speed, same as the other one with the bombs. So the trouble is with this Hellcat is that it only has 6 rockets. Now the best AT rocket planes are those with more rockets, because it depends on whether or not you hit the target, and you're less likely to hit with less rockets, right? So if you have like a P-47 with 12 rockets, you're a lot more likely to saturate the target and actually get a couple hits in, which do, you know, 3 damage a hit. You got to hit each time, so you'd need at least 2 of these to be likely to one-run like a heavy tank. And even then, you'd be very, very unlikely to do it. You'd have to have probably 3 to be even more, to be reliable. And it's like people look at the size of the rocket and go, mate, that's a 127mm rocket. What are you talking about? Well, it doesn't matter how big it is if it doesn't hit. So having more rockets in Steel Division 2 for your planes is actually pretty important. And because the Hellcat doesn't have much, I would say this is overpriced and actually not that good. Then we have the last P-47. This has a much bigger payload, 2 454 kilogram bombs and a 227 kilogram bomb. So you got that one small bomb in the middle and then the extra big bombs on the wings with the 850 cals. Very, very big bombs. So yeah, great payload, great speed, and yeah, a nice option. But availability kind of suffers because it does have those bigger bombs. Any aircraft with bigger bombs in Steel Division 2 does, have less availability. All right, so there we go. That is pretty much every unit in the deck. And now we're going to throw together a quick one. It's already been a while, but I'll get into this. I have made a deck before with the 1E, so this probably won't take too long. But just so you guys can get an idea. I'm probably going to bring in the Commandos d'Afrique in B. I definitely want to keep trying these out and see really how good they are. I'm going to get some Jeep 50 cals in Phase A, and I'm definitely going to be bringing in the M8 RFMs in Phase A as well. And then we're probably also going to want some actual recon infantry in A as well. So we'll bring in some of these with the scout car. So that will give us a lot of 50 cals to work with in Phase A to really dominate enemy infantry. And in the infantry tab, probably going to bring in the leader from the FFI. I believe this is a really nice squad because of the exceptional stealth and the raider trait. Just keeps them hidden whilst, still maintaining some sort of firepower if they really need it. And then in Phase B, I'm going to be bringing in the commander here with the bazooka and the smoke grenades. I think the bazooka is just really handy in the mid game for popping enemy transports and armor that might be harassing your infantry. Then in Phase A, I'm probably going to want to bring in Jocks, although in Phase B they'd be pretty good as well. Let's keep having a look through. I'm tempted to bring in some Legionnaires, but I don't know if I want to do it in Phase A. I think it's quite expensive if you do 45 points, but then again, a 2-point or 2-star half track is going to be pretty nice. I'm going to use some of these in Phase B, I think. Get some of these Sapper Pioneers. And then we'll bring in some more Legionnaires in Phase B with M5 half tracks, I think. It's going to be quite an expensive infantry tab in Phase B, but I'm really thinking that it could be good. In Phase A, I think the Macassars are pretty good, but we need a cheaper option as well in Phase A. So either these boys, or maybe one of the Tirailleurs could be a nice choice. I think the one with the extra rifle there is probably better for Phase A. So we'll bring some of these just to provide some cheap Phase A infantry. We're going to want to have some Phase C infantry, and I still think we should bring in the Chocks. So I'm going to bring in the Chocks in Phase A. They kind of take up the same role as the Macassars. And then Phase C, we're going to need some sort of leftover infantry that are pretty decent. So sappers will be okay. We haven't brought in the ace either, so kind of tempted to bring him in. Just where would I bring him in? Because in the late game, only 12 on a card is actually really bad. So I'd kind of have to bring him in early. Maybe we take out the Tirailleurs, put in the BIMP, and that should be more than enough infantry for Phase A. And we also get to make use of those. Then in Phase C, Legionnaires aren't really a good choice. BIMP's not really a good choice. I kind of want to have one card that has a lot of availability. So I think Tirailleurs in Phase C would be the best idea. Yeah, we'll go with that for now. We're definitely focusing more towards the early game, but still probably going to play it balanced for the late game. Then we have the tank tab to do. So you get a lot of availability of these M10s. So I think having them in the late game with high veterancy is a good idea. I did this before when I made the deck. And then having M5A1s in the early game is nice. That's a good balance throughout of each, and having 2-star M10s is actually really effective because they get a decent chunk of bonus on their accuracy. Support tab, we definitely want M3s. So the M3 howitzer, very nice indeed. Then I want to choose my commander, which is probably just going to be the leader commander, or the infantry leader commander, because he can hide very easily, and the M20 is not the most resilient armored car in the game. So you wouldn't want to lose that, unfortunately, to like an artillery strike or something. I guess, you know, the infantry could die to that as well. And I think it's also important that we bring in maybe an MG. I'm just not entirely sure which we should bring. I can get either the 30 cal or the M1917 at higher veterancy. We will need to leave some space for supply though, and considering these are 2 points a pop, I'm probably going to do that. Anti-tank, I do want to actually try out the F5 Tractions in Phase A, but we're going to want to leave space for the M10s. I think bringing in at least one card of these early is going to be pretty important to support the front line with some actual decent armor. And then after that, having access to AT guns is going to be important. So I'll probably bring in 2 cards of AT guns. Although I'm not sure if I should upvet them. I don't think I should. Anti-air is pretty simple. I'm going to do up-vetted Bofors in Phase A with... Actually, I might be tempted to bring them in with a half-track so that we can get the extra veterancy on the half-track, but that would make them very expensive in Phase A. But then in Phase B, I'm going to bring in more Bofors with no veterancy, so we have more availability. Then in the artillery tab, we're going to go for 81mm mortars. These do have radios, which is pretty important to point out, so definitely going to be bringing in some of those. And then after that, I kind of want to try out the off-map. I didn't get a chance to do that yet, so I think I might bring in one of those in Phase A, because they have 4 off-map strikes available. And so, you know, bringing them in early is actually going to be quite a big boon. Otherwise, I think some late-game artillery is going to be the shout. These long toms are fun to use for sure, so I'm tempted to try those. Maybe we could bring in some 105s in Phase B. Then we've got the air tab to cover. So I really want to try the big old Marauder fleet. So we're going to bring in all of the Marauders. I'm going to bring in the Spitfires in Phase A and Seafires as well, but we'll bring the Seafires in Phase B. So that's going to leave us with 3 points. We still need supply, so we'll pop that in here. Definitely need Phase C supply. Probably need Phase A supply as well, because of the mortars. So we got to find at least 1 point somewhere. I'm not entirely sure where that would come from, but I really do want to try these. I think what I might do is actually sacrifice the long toms for this one, because I don't think that this deck is going to need it if I have all the bombers, and I think the 105s will be good enough for counter battery and mainline support for the most part, after the mortars, you know, do that in the early game. So we'll bring in some Phase A supply. Let's bring in these because they're cool. Doesn't really make a difference. They're both exactly the same in terms of stats. They just look different. So, but we'll make sure to get the FFI unit in there, especially if we're using FFI partisans in Phase A. Now, this isn't obviously something that is a complete sort of deck. I'd probably change this quite a lot, but at the end of the day, this is probably where I'm going to leave it. Just going to add some defenses here. So yeah, there you go. That's where I'm going to leave it with the 1E DFL. Pretty fast put together deck there. I feel like this would be relatively competitive in Phase A and B, and then Phase C is just a matter of like saving for all your bombers and hoping for the best. In a team game, that could work out quite well. So that's kind of what I'm going for here. Just a strong early to mid game, and then, you know, hold out until your big bomber fleet can come in, and hopefully that will be fun. In like a 3v3, 4v4, or even a 10v10, I think, you know, this could be a decent deck. In 1v1, this would definitely need to be changed up quite a bit. So just bear that in mind. But that is it. That is the 1E DFL, or the first Free French Division. There you go. And that's where I'm going to leave it. Very cool division. Lots of unique units. especially in the infantry tab. Love the new uniforms. Really cool aircraft, lots of really nice liveries there. And really nice attention to detail on all of the units having like their own markings and so on for the 1E. So that's really cool. But that is it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.